Hi guys. So today, one of the things that I've been reflecting on a lot lately is my mistakes. You know, the things that, especially for the past, maybe 3 decades of my life, what I've done, and just self-reflection. Just trying to really deep dive and understand what my mistakes were. And one of the things that I noticed is something that I've automatically realized, not consciously, but something that I've slowly corrected in time. But one of my biggest flaws, especially back in the day, around, especially between 20 to 25, around that time period, is I was a very bad listener. Yeah, and this happened because of, I think, fundamentally one reason. Um, Early, when I came to Colombo, immediately after advanced levels, when I came to Colombo, and when I started to teach, I started to lecture, and very serious stuff, things that a 20-year-old doesn't usually get to teach and talk about. So I got this massive opportunity, and I was lecturing, and I had this platform where people were actively listening to me, and I was just trying to, understand what exactly we were uh, teaching as business management, and I was understanding it and I was teaching it. I had barely passed my exam when I started really teaching, and because I had this platform, I automatically became a bad listener because I was always talking, and I thought it was a privilege, and I took it for granted, and this went on, and I was a decent orator, and I had good oratory skills, and so it caught on, and I did well in that space. But in time, it fed my ego to a certain extent, I suppose. And the thankful thing is that I had friends, and I had family, and I had my dad and my mom, and really just my friends who always kind of brought me down my pedestal, and a couple of girls also, who were, who I knew very closely, and who were very close to me, and who always pulled me back and brought me to the ground. So the idea that I'm trying to communicate is that we all can look back and try and think about whether we are good listeners, because there is so much power in listening. Everybody's trying to talk, right? If you go to YouTube or if you go to Facebook, right, even look at me, right? I'm trying to communicate certain things using the platforms I have. Look at what I'm doing now. But in essence, especially during certain periods of our life, we unconsciously try to bend the truth and shape the truth, shape reality using our words. And we think that if we win an argument, that's reality, that's true. And we try to feed our ego from that. And I've seen a lot of people who, with good oratory skills, trying to just impose their will and their thought and their opinions to other people purely because their oratory capabilities are good. And I think we can be mature more than that. And in a day and age, we live in the information age, and there is so much information, which means by default we have so much that we can listen to. So if there is always the opportunity to listen than speak, despite you having a platform to speak, I would recommend, and I would advise, and I would ask you, I would request you to listen more, pay attention. Even the young kid, even the adult, even your peer, even someone very senior, even someone who is not in your strata, in your sphere at all, might tell you something that is very important. And active listening is not a uh, not a skill that we get trained in our school days, and that is a big gap I see in the education system also. So think about whether you listen. And the other thing about talking, right, and why in turn listening is so important, is because I realize that a lot of people don't think. A lot of people talk, and that is them thinking. Because they don't have anybody to listen to. Ideally, what should happen as thinking is we think something in our head and then we evaluate it. So it's almost like there are a couple of people in your mind, and one person listens and the other speaks, and then these ideas bounce back and forth. And that is what true, real, actual thinking is. But that rarely happens. Most of our thinking is centric to sort of self-criticism, and we are just trying to feel bad about the things we do almost all the time whenever we try to isolate our mind and our thoughts in it. So what I realized is that after having listened to so many conversations among so many groups of people, I realized that a lot of people do their thinking while they talk, even me, right? So but now, for me to make this video, I thought about it a lot. I was jogging and then I was thinking about it. I was thinking about what should I convey, and then it hit me that this is one area we can touch on, because by being a listener, you are actually helping someone else to think, because most of the time we think by talking. So when you are actively listening, you are actually, and and the funny thing is this: if you really listen, people will tell you everything. This is one reason why I am very careful with my phone calls, because I've slowly turned to become a listener, and my phone calls get very, very lengthy. And that consumes a lot of time, and so I have to very carefully manage my time. And the thing I realized is, when you are really listening, when you let a person know that you're truly engaged and you truly genuinely care about what they say, without any sort of judgment, and even if you do have one, you will honestly speak back and you will convey that idea, and people value that. So what happens is that people actually tell you amazing things that you never knew were in their mind. And then you can follow it up by clarifying it, because most of the times, when you this recently happened in one of the conversations I was talking about. My friends were going on about some ideological stuff, and then I was trying to make sense of it. And after about three of them really were trying and communicating their perspective of this, I kind of summed it up. And then one of my friends told me, yes, spot on, that was what I was trying to say. And that is a very difficult place to be in, for all of us, to really understand what another person is trying to communicate, to really see it from their perspective, and then to really put it into words. And none of that is possible if you, one, if you don't let that person speak, and two, if you don't actively listen, three, if you're not honest about your listening and about your conveyance of an idea. And this is something that I was reading and listening to Professor Peterson recently. And he talks a lot about Sigmund Freud. And in the Freudian psychoanalyst models, there's a lot of active listening. And you would have seen in movies where the psychotherapy is really the person letting the person just lying down and looking at the ceiling, closing their eyes and speaking. So that is one way where Freud proposes that psychoanalysts don't talk too much, but really get the patient to speak. And so by that process, the patient will realize certain things, because one of the biggest issues, a lot of people go to therapy, and why, if at all even we should, if we don't have anyone, is if we don't have people to listen to be listened by. So listening is just, and there's always that saying, no, we have 2 ears and 1 mouth. So here I am talking. I'm very hesitant to speak, but I'm saying this because I think it's important, and it's something that I'm working on, and I hope that I can rope you in on the process, and you will also join me in developing the listening skill, so that we can ultimately become better human beings and even better speakers down the line. So that's my 2 bits about how important listening is. I've thought a great deal about it, but really my request is that you go back, you self-reflect, and you truly think, if one, if you're actively listening, and if you're good at listening, and two, can you clarify things and really listen in a way that you can recommunicate someone else's perspective clearly. On that note, all the very best, and good luck listening, guys. Take care.